Hi there, Mark here again, Alf's on the camera.
Hello.
Welcome to our little video about the Tamiya Thunder Dragon. Well, basically the Thunder Dragon and what I've done to it. The model itself was released in March '88, and if you know anything about this kit, it was based on the Thunder Shot chassis, which was a much more popular car. I think the reason was that this one was based, the design of the shell anyway, was based on Japanese anime, I think some Japanese comic at the time, and with its kind of angular looks and that, it didn't really take off at all. So
no, they didn't do it quite right, did they?
No, I don't think it's quite right. But back then, I think at the end of '88, '89, I bought it because I went up to BT's in Birmingham with my friend. We saw this thing on offer for, I think it was 99 quid for the whole kit. So you got the whole car, all the electronics, you got the ACOMs, batteries, chargers, a bag. I mean, for 99 quid back in the day, that was a real bargain. So yeah, took that back home. We had some great fun bashing around with those, but probably had a bit too much of a bashing. I think a few parts got broken.
Yeah.
And the thing ended up going into the loft along with my Monster Beetle back in the day. So yeah, that's the backstory of it. Didn't sell very well, but underneath there somewhere there is a really good chassis.
Yeah, it's much better, isn't it? It's an improvement on the Thunder Shot.
Yeah.
Which is weird why it has less sales.
Well, to be honest with you, it's basically the same chassis as the Thunder Shot. It was only the body, I think they changed off, but this one didn't sell. Anyway, like I said, the Thunder Shot was a good chassis, even with the original single front chock across there. We'll talk to you about that in a bit and why I've changed that. But 3 or 4 years back again, when I got this back out the loft, I thought there's enough there to have a go at. We'll see if we can get this thing going again. And I rebuilt it. Basically took the whole thing to pieces, cleaned it all up, re-greased all the internals, put all the gearboxes back together, but this time I put in the metal bearings, which obviously make a big difference. And you need the metal bearings in there. You've heard me going on about that before. They're all in there now, and the car runs a lot better. Right, this is the original bathtub chassis that came with it, and we had a few impacts at the front, and this thing isn't really very well designed in terms of strength because, as you can see,
it's quite thin plastic as well.
It's very thin plastic. It's very light. The whole of the front was smashed away. It's very brittle plastic.
Yeah, it's that brittle,
hard plastic that cracks quite easily. So as you can see, it's smashed through there. There's a mount that completely came away there. That's the gearbox mount. And I don't know if you can see, Alf, if you zoom on the back there, you can see that these, I think this was where the body mounts were.
Yeah.
Basically, it's cracked everywhere. So I took it apart. I thought, oh, I'm never going to be able to get these parts. It's such an old car. And it's hard to get these parts. I think they've stopped making them now. Anyway, quick check on eBay. Managed to pick one of these up for about, I think it was 12 or 15 quid. So I thought, well, it's worth it if I can get the whole car going. So as you can see now, I've got the new tub on there. This has been, fingers crossed and touch wood, it's been okay, and it has had a hard bashing since I've rebuilt it. So
is it any more or less brittle?
I think it's probably maybe a little bit less brittle because it's newer. It's obviously old and it's been up in the loft in freezing temperatures. This has been okay, so like I say, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Right, so as I said, rebuilt it with the bearings completely, cleaned everything up. I put it back together. I'll cut to a shot in a minute to show you in the manual of the original single shot. Used to mount across the front there on these two brackets, and I'll quickly show you those. Those are the two brackets that fit onto the bottom wishbones, and that shock went across.
It's just no good, that design, is it?
Well, it works okay, Alf, but it's obviously restricted, it's limited.
Yeah.
There's a problem with rolling, anti-rolling, which there's quite a nice thick anti-roll bar on this, if you can see. That was a must when it had the single shock, Alf, but you don't need that so much with the twin shocks, but I've left it on there because it does add an element of stopping the car from rolling, so it's a nice part of the kit really to keep on there, that anti-roll bar.
Yeah.
As you can see, this front bit there, I know it's a nasty bit of aluminium. I did that back in the, I think I did that back in 89 or 90 when it smacked the first time it broke. That plastic part in the front, I think it's A5, I'm not sure. You can see it there off on the on the manual, that plastic part, the ends just snap off, and so that's the bottom wishbone mounts, and then you've got no suspension. So I made that years ago. It still works. It's not pretty, but it does the job, so left it on there.
Yeah.
As you can see, there's a bit more aluminium on there now. We'll talk about that in a minute. I'll show you the front shocks. When I put them on, they fit on these two mounts here. It's a very tight angle. So what I've done is made an aluminium bracket that just fits over the old front body mount there.
You've done the same for the rear as well, haven't you?
I've widened the rear as well.
Yeah.
To give the shocks a more upright stance.
Yeah.
Basically, the shocks will work better if they're more upright, because the geometry stays pretty much the same through the stroke of the suspension. When they're really angled in, the geometry changes, and it's not quite as good in my opinion. So that's why I've made these more upright, because as you can see from this car, it's good off-road because it has got a ton of ground clearance. I mean, for a buggy,
That's a good... How much would you
that
say?
is a lot. I think the original Tamiya video about the car said it's got something like 35 or 40 millimeters travel. I mean, look at the back, it's got even more.
Yeah.
So if you push that down there,
You're never really
a
going to
lot
have it
of
hitting
travel.
the floor either, are you?
no. The other thing you'll notice as well, the back's not so brilliant, but the geometry on those back wheels doesn't change much through the suspension stroke. And on the front, I think it's even better with the twin shocks. The wheels pretty much stay as they should be, rather than splaying in or out. So yeah, I think it's a really good design.
And the wheels don't wobble around so much as the new ones do they?
I mean, considering the age of it, I haven't replaced any of the parts on the suspension. This thing, I think it's
So
solid.
much more solid than the Neo Scorcher, for example, isn't
Exactly, it is off. So I think it's a great design, and it really does run well off-road. It tackles real rough terrain very, very well indeed.
it? Go over roots like they're not dead, isn't it?
So that's talked about the front there. That's the bracket on the front for the shocks. As I say, I think they were off TTO2, maybe that length anyway. On the back, I've got a bit of bling with these Trackstar shocks, which I had lying around. I bought them; they didn't fit something else, but they fitted this thing okay. So what I've done, if you look at the picture in the manual there again, Alf, you can see the angle on those rear shocks is really steep.
Yeah, about 45 degrees.
It is pretty much like that, yeah. So what I've done is I've made this aluminium bracket. It's fitted to the top mounts on this rear stay, and it just widens the stance for those top shocks. And as a bonus, I've put on these old body mounts that I found, so I could mount my new Chevy pickup truck shell.
And that's why you've got the other aluminium parts at the front as well, isn't
That's
it?
right. Oh, here we go. So I know it looks a bit of a mess, but again, I don't know what these were off. That I found them in the parts box. So these mounts here, again, this bracket mounts onto the back of the original shock mounts, but it was flapping around, so I've just added this little brace here just to stop it from moving around. Not pretty, as I say, but it does the job.
Yeah, you won't see it when it's going.
No.
Fine.
Okay. Also, you can see I've put this other plate on here. That's just to hold the new ESC. There was a whole bunch of plastic on there to hold this old mechanical speed controller, but obviously rebuilding it, chance to get rid of that. Put in a modern TB Leo 2, my favourite ESC. I think that might be one of the original ACOMS receivers that came with it. It still works, so that's still in there. And another hop-up I've made there, as you can see, is there's a Tourniquet Trackstar 17.5 turn censored brushless, fitted straight on. I think I've using the standard pinion gear that came with it, and that goes pretty nicely with that motoring.
Goes with the red theme of the shocks as well, doesn't it?
Yeah. So what I need to do is to change out these shocks because they look a bit awful compared to the back ones
as well.
But as you can see, the whole thing works nicely. Lots of damping, plenty of suspension travel. I'd say the last thing I changed was with these mounts. This is a Proline 50s Chevy pickup, and I'm not exactly sure which model, but hey, it's a 50s Chevy pickup, so
Yeah,
as you
looks
can
nice,
see,
so it doesn't matter.
got some braces in there. Fit that through. Does fit on there quite nicely. It's the standard. The wheelbase on this is 260mm, so most replacement buggy shells will fit. And as you can see, luckily, even with the standard wheel cutouts, if I push the suspension right down, there's still plenty of clearance. We don't get any scuffing on there, so it runs really nice like that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a little bit of it running after. I've got it racing against a modern Aero Avanti, so you can see for yourself, see what you think, if you think it runs any good. Okay then, so thanks for watching my little video, and see you soon.
Oh.